What's going on, everybody? Tanner here, and today I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks on how to be useful to your teammates in Trials of Osiris. This is for your average player, of course. I'm not speaking to the gods out there. I'm speaking to your average man who is looking to kind of help his teammates better, learn how to understand how to maneuver in Trials and be an active player in Trials and be a good teammate in Trials. These are all things that just kind of take basic knowledge, and you may have never thought about them until today when I show them to you guys. So these are all things that were taught to me by really good players and in a hope to make me a better player, because I was never like your awesome Halo player. I was always a pretty decent one, but you know, the gods out there came from Halo and just really succeeded in this game at a whole different level. So these are what I've been taught, so I hope that they work for you guys as well. Alright, first step, find your role. Now, every person in this game kind of has a role. You're going to have all different types of things. These are going to depend on your subclass, your weapon choices, all different things like that. So first of all, are you a sniper? Are you going to be looking down lines of sight? Are you a shotgun guy? Are you going to be wanting to make your encounters happen in close environments? Are you a rusher? Are you going to push the control room? Are you going to push their spawn out? Are you going to hit them with the flank? Or are you a passive guy who likes to just sit there and watch lines of sight with a sniper rifle and then maneuver over to a scout rifle at another line of sight? All these roles are critical to know what you're going to be doing and when you're going to be doing it. If you know your role, and every teammate has a role, and you guys aren't mimicking each other's roles, you can't have 3 rushers, you can't have 3 flankers, because 3 people flanking shows up on the minimap, and that's no longer a flank because the enemy just turns around to fight you guys. So you have to have separate roles, and you guys have to understand your roles. And you also have to know that your teammates have their own particular role, and you can't invade upon that. So just because they may have like a location that's getting a lot of action, you can't be like, well, my location sucks, I'm going to come to yours, because then that leaves a gap, and these gaps need to be filled by teammates everywhere. So you got to know your role, you got to know your position, and these are easily discovered by basically just playing the game, understanding what type of player you are, and knowing if you're a sniper, a shotty, a scout guy, a pulse rifle, a hand cannon. All of these things affect the way that the game will allow you to play it. So know your role. That will truly help you out. Also, to touch on the know your role topic, this also involves armor pieces. If you're a person that runs Light Beyond Nemesis or Cresta Alpha Lupi, any of those type of items where you get to revive people faster, you have to know that you're kind of the revive guy. The other guy's going to provide cover, and you're going to be the one to pick people up, since you can do it much faster. And you also have to know when you pick people up to push them out of the way so that they don't get, sniped right away. These are all roles that become useful in the fight. Alright, second step, find your route. So once you know your role, now you have to find your route. So your route will come from things like understanding where, if you're going to hold down mid, if you're going to hold down the top floor. So on this map, the side that we're spawning on, I typically like to jump into the middle of the map, look down center lane with sniper. I check down there. When I'm doing my triple jump into center, if I'm using my hunter or whoever I'm using, I do a higher leveled arch to my jump in the mid. That way I can see down at the enemy side if any of them are going to match me in that middle lane. So this allows me to see nobody's coming, and then quickly look up into the left building, into the control room, party room, whatever you'd like to call it, look into their spawn door, and possibly get an early snipe throughout the game. So these are all just critical routes that become useful once you know your role. So now that I know I'm a sniper guy, and I like to keep my engagements typically long in the beginning, and then after the initial sniper engagement, if you want to call it that, has been done, I will switch to my pulse rifle, and then I will try to engage the enemy at about mid-range. I don't want to get close enough to the shotgun guys. I also don't want to be outgunned by the scout rifle guys. So I try to stick around just around the mid-range. That seems to help out a lot. Third step, know your subclass. Now, you have to understand, are you a blade dancer? Because you're going to need to make your ult be able to be useful in small quarters. If you're in the big opening, you're going to get sniped you're going to get sniped where you get there, or you're going to get countered by other ults. Are you a golden gun guy? Are you a void walker? Whatever it may be, you need to know your role. That way you're actually useful when it comes to using that subclass. You don't want to be using a blade dancer and activate it out in the middle of nowhere, because you're not going to be able to get to your enemies. So you're going to have to know your subclass, and then once you know your subclass, you need to find your launch spot. And now this is what I call a launch spot, is a spot that you can activate your super in a hidden location. That way you can just, generally be secure with the enemy not hearing it. You need to activate your super in secret, because quite honestly, half the time when you activate your super, the enemy's you're either going to activate it too close to them and they're going to kill you in the moment of activation, or you're going to activate it and they're just going to run and hide. Neither of these two things are useful for dominating a game by using your super. So what I would recommend is you find what I call a launch spot. So for me, on this right side that I'm spawning on now, what I'll typically do with my hunter at least, is I'll jump into right side, but I'll stick to the left side of the building. So I still jump into mid, but I stick to the left. I go underneath the arch, and I go right underneath party room, and I activate it there. Then I jump up in front of their building. So I'll do a triple jump in front of their doorway. Or I'll go behind the glass room and jump from there. So these two things really help out because they allow me to activate it, and I can do it from a position that if they do decide to run away and flank, if my teammates relay to me that they have ran off and like flanked, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just bust a right and go flank them and still catch them with the golden gun. So that way my super becomes useful. It's not as worthless as other things may be, you know. So that's what I would definitely recommend, and just understanding launch spots, understanding you need to activate them in super, all these things will help you. Fourth up, collapse on orbs, not on enemies. Now what I mean by this is a lot of times you'll have an enemy that's really hurt and he'll run into a room, and people will say like, yo, he's one shot, collapse, collapse. I do not recommend this. If you get an orb drop and you kill somebody and there's an orb, you can collapse on that orb to push the enemies away from it and keep them from reviving. However, if he's alive, I can't tell you how many times I've seen my teammates chase somebody into a room, and when they get in there, dude's got a shotgun and just cleans up. In fact, I will even admit, I had a situation where there was 1v3 and the guy got hurt. He ran into the room. My teammate chased him, got shotgun. My other teammate chased him in there, like split seconds after, got shotgun. I figured the dude's got to be hurt. They had to have hurt him even more. So I'll be the third dummy, and I ran in there too, and he shotgunned all three of us. Dude literally got a clutch 1v3 because we gave it to him. Not because he... I mean, he did outsmart us technically, but it wasn't like he truly outsmarted us with like routes and starting positions and things like that. He outsmarted us because he ate into what's that word? That little terminology. He fed off our mistakes. I believe it's something like that. So that's really what he did. He just took our mistakes and made them completely useful tactics for him. Alright, next, always watch the mini-map. Now, communication in this game is super key. If you're not communicating, it's really like your fourth man is just missing. Your communication skills are the fourth man. It's your ability to let your enemies, your teammates know where the enemies are. That way they don't run into them head on and make mistakes and get themselves killed or set themselves up to waste their supers or anything of that nature. So make sure you always are watching the mini-map and relaying those positions to your teammates, because those are super useful. You need to know those, and you need to understand that communication is what is going to give you guys free wins. Even I beat excellent players. I beat high-ranked, high-tier players with my team before. None of us are gods. None of us have above 2 KDs or anything crazy like that. We're just your standard Destiny players. But we can win a lot of games based on the fact that we are communicating enemy locations, who's hurt, who's not, where the orbs are downed, where the enemies are trying to pick the orbs up, where the control point is. You need to relay these things, because if you do, you will find that winning games will become 1,000 times easier. Not 1,000,000 times easier, not a little bit easier. It becomes 1,000 times easier. Like, okay, maybe not 1,000, but you know what I mean. It becomes much easier to get the job done. So make sure you keep your communication skills up. That's your fourth man. He comes off the bench, and he will be there every game to give you free wins as long as you allow him to be, and just communicate with your teammates. And finally, know the control point. Learn where the control point is on every single map, and then learn how to lock it down. So on this one, you get to the control point upstairs. If you can lock down the bottom of the steps, like I call it the escalators, and it's actually just like a ramp up to the control point, but I call it escalators to make it easier. You've got your escalators. Once you lock down the lower escalators, there's pretty much just one way up to the escalator. It's one massive hole, but it's only one way. And then you watch the backside over to glass building where they snipe over there, and you watch the 2 doors on each side. If you can have a set of nades and supers, you can literally lock this room down, which I think's not a great one on Asylum. It's not a great example because you can lock it down too much, but I do like how you somewhat can just, if you know the map, you can cheese it out and you can lock it down, and you can win every single control point, and I mean every single one of them. Especially if you have a defender titan. He just goes in there, pops the bubble, while his buddies throw nades and supers in the other doorways, or really don't even need it because the enemy's got to come into that bubble and do something insane to get you guys out of there. So unless they have supers to counter it, it's pretty OP. So that's pretty much it for today. I just wanted to give you guys some tips on what I have been taught and what I have been told, and just kind of relay those messages to you. You know, pass down the knowledge to help your other average players. So I appreciate you guys hanging out today. I appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys also have a great weekend this weekend. I have mine coming up. I have a wedding this weekend. I'm getting married, folks. Getting married. So it's going to be intense. So I hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, have a good weekend, and peace.